And Johnny, let's move on into our next topic. Before we get into it, though, got to do a little bit of housekeeping for this one. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you're on iTunes, or if you have Apple Podcasts or Apple iTunes, because Johnny, I know I have an iTunes account. I have an Apple account, an Apple ID, but I watch all my podcasts on YouTube. So even if you're on YouTube and you have an Apple account, make sure to go over and give the Rick and Johnny podcast a 5-star rating on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out. Every 5-star rating gets us higher up that board so we can get into the ears of more people and suggest it to more people on the podcasting of iTunes. But let's move into our next topic, Johnny, and it is going to be Titans Season 2. We talked about this, last week, 2 weeks ago? We kind of looked at the schedule of DC.
I think so,
we talked about it while we talked about the Joker or Joker movie.
We talked about that last week.
We did. I know we talked about the DC schedule coming up at some point because they did it at WonderCon, I believe it was. But we have new news for Titans.
New news
is that Iain Glen, who plays Jorah in Game of Thrones, who actually we're going to see tonight as we are recording this on Sunday. And also, Johnny, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the podcast, how creepy is it that it's snowing and thundering here in Chicago on the season premiere of Game of Thrones?
Spare no expenses, HBO. Spare no expenses.
Like you said when you came in, man, I wonder how much it cost HBO to get it to snow. What kind of deal did they have to make with the dead man or God to get it to snow on the premiere?
Dead man, God.
Or they
devil,
just have
whoever.
the Night King. We're in the north here. Well, we're not far
They actually
north.
have a Night King over there.
If you think about it, Chicago would be Winterfell because if the border of the U.S. was the edge of the wall or the
Canadian border,
then the U.S. Canadian border.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Then Minnesota and South Dakota, Minnesota would be like the Watch and the Wall, the Night's Watch and the Wall.
Mall of America is the Night's Watch.
Yeah, it's the Night's Watch.
The Mall of America is Castle Black,
and we're about just as far from Minnesota, where I think that Chicago would be Winterfell, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, to be fair though, too, Westeros is quite a bit thinner than the United States. No,
well, I'm only using the Midwest to East. Sorry, West Coast, you don't count. But basically, then what? King's Landing would be Miami.
That's a bit far south. That'd be more like Dorne.
Well, I thought Dorne would be because Dorne you have to go on a boat to get to. So Dorne would be like Cuba and Puerto Rico.
I guess. I thought Dorne was still kind of attached.
They used boats to get from King's Landing because remember,
it's easier.
Spoilers. Because remember they were on the boat when Little Lannister died.
Yeah,
they poisoned her.
Quicker to take a boat from there to King's Landing than it is to travel up.
Then where would you say King's Landing is, Mr. Expert?
King's Landing is probably...
if we're Winterfell here in Chicago.
Winterfell here in Chicago. I don't know, South Carolina?
South Carolina?
Maybe North Carolina? I don't know. Let me pull up the U.S. map real quick.
Charleston, South Carolina is King's Landing.
Hold on. I'm going to look up map
of the United States.
Westeros.
Because this is what we do on the podcast. We get derailed.
Very much so.
United States map.
United States.
I like how you're dictating for the audio listeners.
Yeah, I am because let's see, a map of Westeros. Can you actually pull up the map of Westeros instead of just, there we go. You got that one big. Really? You're making that something? You.
Yeah, Columbia, South Carolina, or would it be Atlanta? Would it be Hotland? Well, no, it's got to be by water, right?
It's got to be like this edge by water.
So Charleston.
Yeah, it might be.
Charleston, South Carolina, maybe either King's Landing.
It's be somewhere between Virginia and South Carolina. Somewhere in that area.
Or do we make St. Petersburg? No, because Dorne's not west.
Make Virginia... Like the area of, we can just mesh all the states together and make Virginia through Maryland and Delaware all would be King's Landing.
So we would not be Winterfell.
Well, we would be in that group of Winterfell, because look how big Winterfell is on a map of Westeros. It's fucking huge.
So all that matters is that Chicago's Winterfell. That's all I wanted to make.
If I can actually get a bigger map of Winterfell, or map of Westeros,
but basically,
it'd be nice.
I wanted to throw out that it's snowing here in Chicago on the season premiere of Game of Thrones. But let's get into what we were really going to talk about, and that is Titan Season 2. The thing I will say right now, I'm going to say it right now, if you haven't, for whatever reason, seen Titan Season 1, unless your name's Johnny Karlic, there's going to be spoilers here, because I've already filled you in on mostly everything. So I will say, if you haven't finished Season 1, you haven't seen Season 1, you don't want anything spoiled, pause it, come back to this when you see it. Otherwise, I'm going to give kind of a recap of what we saw in Season 1 with this, so that we can talk about Season 2 coming up this fall. So you have been warned, and now I will start it. And Johnny, the big news that first we'll talk about is Iain Glen from Game of Thrones. This is what I was going to kind of go into before I got derailed on Game of Thrones. Iain Glen, who was Jorah in Game of Thrones, or is Jorah, because he's still alive in Game of Thrones, knock on wood, for right now, has been casted to play Batman, or, pardon me, has been casted to play Bruce Wayne, wink wink, in Titan Season 2.
It's like you're inferring Batman as Bruce Wayne or something.
I am referring to that. But I want to ask you,
thank you,
what are your thoughts of Jorah being Bruce Wayne?
It'd be interesting. I don't know how...
You're still looking at those maps, aren't you?
I am, kind of.
You're still distracted by those maps, I can tell.
No, I am thinking about that, the other part too. I can do more.
Put the maps down, Johnny.
I have the article in front of me. So fuck you. I mean, it just it's gonna be an older Bruce Wayne then, because from looking at Jorah, I mean, just how he looks, unless some of that's makeup. How old is
I'm looking it up.
Yeah.
As soon as you brought up age, I was like,
yeah, I know. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that means they're going with
57.
57. So they're going with an older Bruce Wayne. Which nothing wrong with that. Just interesting to see.
I mean, does it make...
And if he can hide his British accent, because everyone from Game of Thrones is British or from that area, Irish or whatever.
So basically,
Scottish.
He could house it.
Yeah, can he house it so he doesn't sound British? He sounds American, because that's what Bruce Wayne usually sounds like.
Actually, he's Scottish, Johnny.
He's Scottish. He's Scottish.
In Scotland.
I'm not saying... I didn't say all of them were British.
No,
I said
know.
British, Scottish, Irish.
I'm just being an a-hole.
But if he can hide his accent, then yeah, I think it'd go over well. It's just, can you sound like the character at that point? Because I've only seen him as Jorah.
Yeah. I've only seen him as Jorah too. And for me, when I saw this, I was like, oh, cool. We're actually because in Season 1, we saw Batman, but it wasn't even a real Batman. It was Dick Grayson a vision was being put into his head by Trigon, to where he saw Batman kill the Joker. He saw Batman kill police officers, because as soon as Batman killed the Joker, I was like, this ain't Batman. Or no, my first thought was, holy shit, he killed the Joker. Like, oh my god, he snapped. Then as I seen Batman kill, I'm like, this isn't Batman. Batman wouldn't kill this much. So I started to get the thought of doubt, and I was like, oh, it makes sense. And it was all in Dick's head, and it wasn't real at all. The cool thing is that now we're going to get Batman in this series, and the thing I want to see so bad is how he interacts with Dick Grayson, because one of the underlying things from Season 1 is Dick kind of doesn't look on Batman in a kind light. Where he kind of looks at Batman as like a fuck Batman, he used me, he doesn't care about anyone, he just cares about himself and this and that. And I want to see that interaction between Dick and Bruce, because also, guess who else has just gotten promoted to a regular on Titans?
Jason Todd.
So, I mean, we're now going to have Batman, Jason Todd, and Dick Grayson on Titans. Do you think that we already have a ton of season 2 stuff? Superboy was teased at the end of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
We know we're going to have Son of Jericho. We know we're going to have Deathstroke. I think we know we're going to have Deathstroke's daughter as well. What do you think for you? Because we didn't get any of real Batman in Titans season 1. It was mostly the formation of the Titans, the introduction at Trigon right at the end, and then boom, here's a Superboy teaser into season 2. What would you want Batman's role to be in Titans based off of everything that we have laid in front of us?
Well, first off, with all the things you label like for potential season 2, be careful about not adding too much stuff. I get it's a movie, it's a TV series instead of, I say TV series because
it's a streaming series,
but I'm gonna say TV series probably.
I think they went with 16 episodes the first time.
Did they? I mean, you gotta be careful about adding too much stuff though, because I get it's not a movie, but still, you take the potential of doing that no matter what. You're like. The only one that I've seen do that successfully, like real Game of Thrones, do many arcs at one time.
But they've also they've got HBO money, and I know that this is like DC money, Warner Brothers money. They did only 11 episodes for season 1. Titans.
But I mean, I'm just saying you have to be careful about doing too many story arcs at one time, too much at one time, because we've talked about many movies that do this, and you have to be careful about doing that so you don't ruin what you're trying to do. So I mean, my thought would be keep him as Bruce Wayne, maybe the occasional sort of like maybe yelling at Dick for doing the wrong thing, or like them arguing about something with Jason Todd, like maybe he's like, you need to pull in the reins on Jason since he's part of your team. It's like, you fucking did this to him. In that argument, so stuff like that, but don't make him Batman at all. I'd say do not make him Batman at all. Make him like in a few episodes, maybe if it's 11, maybe put him in like 4 episodes.
So you're saying
as little sprinklings.
Don't let us see him as Batman, is what you're saying. Okay,
mostly. I mean, maybe once as like again, we know arguing
because we know he's obviously Batman.
Don't make him Batman as Batman, but we maybe like. You have him dressed as Batman once and argue with Jason. If you want to throw him in as Batman, keep him in, like, throw him in maybe up to 5 episodes. So maybe around half the episodes. But it's just to, like, argue with Jason Todd, or mostly to argue with Dick and talk to, and even give advice to one or both of them.
See, because I wonder how big of a role Batman's going to play in this.
Yeah.
I think that this is something that people get excited about because, oh my God, it's fucking Batman. But, like, the thing I'm going to look at really quick is I'm going to compare it to Hawk and Dove from season 1. Where if I look, I'm going to pull up the Titans IMDb. Let's see how many episodes that Thad Castle was in. So, Alan Richson, he was in, let's see, Titans. Oh, shit. He was in all 12. Fuck. I didn't realize that. But, like, basically what I'm looking at is you had in season 1, the main story was Rachel or Raven. And the Titans coming together with Dick trying to find her. Starfire was then trying to find her. Beast Boy came in. It was the Titans becoming the Titans. That was the main story. Then you had number 2 was Hawk and Dove, with the Dove and Dick relationship that they used to have, Hawk and Dove, what they're going through, like all of that kind of was secondary. I wonder if Deathstroke being the main villain is going to be the main story for the season. And then Batman, because even like the Jason Todd was there for a little bit, and then he was gone. I wonder if Batman Jason Todd is just going to be enough for, hey, we are going to set it up so that Jason Todd dies, and at the end of the season or ending episodes or maybe one episode, Jason Todd dies and we set up a Red Hood for season 3. I don't think we're going to get a ton of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're going to get a ton of
Red
Jason
Hood
Todd.
yet.
Like, yes, and the big thing is the thing about Jason Todd becoming a regular is the article that I saw. Because if I look at, let me just pull up, let's see, there's Walters, who was Jason Todd. He was in, there's no way he was in all 12 episodes. So on IMDb, they just have him cast for all 12 episodes, but there was no way that he was in all 12 of the episodes because he wasn't even introduced. Like, out of all of them, he got, each Hawk and Dove and Jason Todd got one episode. Like, Hawk and Dove were in it, but they got episode 9 was their origin story. It was all about Hawk and Dove. Whereas episode 6, the Jason Todd, that's when Jason Todd was introduced. That's the episode we got with Jason Todd. I wonder if Batman and Jason Todd this time are going to be the same thing. And by making Jason Todd more of a regular, it's not like, hey, he's the main story. Batman's the main story. It's more of that Hawk and Dove, where it's like, yeah, they're in 2 of the episodes to start, maybe 2 and 3. Then we get an episode towards 10 that's their episode. And then we get kind of a sprinkling of them at the very end, to where it's not like they're a main focus. They're a side mission on the true mission of Deathstroke introducing himself and fucking with the Titans. What do you think if they did that? Should they make Batman and Jason Todd a side story in season 2?
That could work too. I mean, just as long as we don't get like too much Batman.
China's like ketchup. Ketchup Batman. I want a little bit. I don't want a ton.
Yeah, well, because you don't want to take the focus off of who it's supposed to be about.
Mm-hmm. So it's about the Titans.
Exactly. You want to keep the focus on the Titans. So to throw too much Batman in there, which is why I was stating earlier, you know what? Let's make him sort of just make him sort of I almost said a one-off. No, make him more of the idea where, again, just like he's sprinkled in here and there to give you sort of advice, even if it's unwanted advice, or argue with one or two of them. And it would be with either Jason Todd or, especially since you said he's going to be more regular now, or even Dick Grayson, argue with him. So it's like, hey, you need to rein so-and-so in or whatever. And stuff like that. Because I feel like if a side story would be nice as long as it's not like too invasive. To where I guess if you want to throw the Red Hood story, since you said he's not Red Hood yet.
No, he's not. He's Jason Todd.
Maybe so maybe make him disappear like halfway through the season. Because
the coolest thing with the Jason Todd character that I liked was there's a scene where the cops come and Jason Todd is just beating the crap out of cops. And like basically to the point where he's going to fucking kill these cops, and Dick has to stop him and go like, hey, we don't fucking do that, guy. Like, we don't do that. And Jason Todd's got the mindset of like, no, fuck these pigs. Like, they didn't help me when I was, before like Batman gave me all this power. Now I got the power. I can do whatever I want. F these guys kind of a thing. So you can already see Jason Todd he's got some underlying personalities that would be like, oh, I see how this is going to influence him to be Red Hood.
Yeah.
Especially after the whole, like, you didn't save me, Batman. And I wonder if they do an episode that is Batman and Jason Todd focused. Do you do one that is under the Red Hood-esque of the whole scene of the Joker kidnapping Jason Todd and Batman trying to save him, if that is one episode. And it's just involving Batman and Jason Todd to show, oh, Jason Todd is dead, and they don't even have to tease then a Red Hood, we know as comic book fans what is coming next.
Yeah, no, I thought that's what I was trying to say earlier is maybe if you did make the second underlying story, and like you said, Hawk and Dove had one episode that was about them.
Yep.
But that would be one way to do it too. They have him, and then you said, or it says that Jason Todd's supposed to be a mainstream character this coming season. Make him like a few episodes in, maybe 5th, 6th episode. Do the Batman Jason Todd Under the Red Hood storyline, or at least that part of it. Make him Joker kill Jason Todd, and then the rest of the season an underlying.
Which you don't even have to cast a Joker, by the way.
No, you don't.
You can do it without casting a Joker.
Exactly. But then it would be like the other like 5 or 6 episodes would be, what happened to Jason? Where's Jason at?
I mean that.
It would be like that would be like the underlying story.
That's how I would do it. And for the exact section from the article that I read, said Jason Todd will play a bigger role in season 2 of Titans, with the actor Coran Walters promoted to series regular. Walters served as a guest star over the course of the first season, playing the second incarnation of Robin, sent by their fellow mentor, Batman. Jason Todd arrived on the scene with a warning for Dick Grayson. Despite offering an assist to the team in taking down Nick Zuko, Jason and Dick found themselves at odds regarding the former's more brutal approach to vigilantism. Regardless, the character proved a hit with fans and one of the show's breakout stars. That in general, I just think Jason Todd was a hit with fans because besides Under the Red Hood, we've never seen a TV movie version of Jason Todd.
Yeah.
So like the fact that we got it and it was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I expect Jason Todd to be like, was like, oh my God, this is cool. Here's the last thing I want to ask you, and this kind of goes into, so you and I had a discussion. I'm going to look up to see how long ago that discussion was as I mute my tablet because I forgot that I had it on mute. I forgot. Me and you watched that Batista video of them making his trunks in between the first and second segment. So I got to make sure this tablet is now muted. So let's see. Rick and Johnny. There's our playlist. Yeah, we did talk about it last week. So last week we talked about, did Shazam prove we don't need to worry about DC anymore? And I'm going to put that up above if you're a DC fan and want to check that out. But there was an article I saw online, yet again from Screen Rant, and I didn't want to make this a full topic because we just had that one last week.
Yeah.
But I want to throw it at the end for you. The title of the article reads, DC needs more stories like Shazam and less like Titans. And their whole big thing is that, number one, Shazam lightened up the DCEU. Number two, they made a reference to Arrow, how levity, they say, saved the Arrowverse because it was so dark and gritty before. And that basically Doom Patrol, which is, yes, got that DC universe kind of spin where it's like a realer, darker kind of, I don't want to use the word darker. It's a real series, but it's got that comedy aspect to it, especially driven by Brendan Fraser's character in that. What do you think of this? That Shazam basically, is Shazam proving that we need more stories that are lighthearted like Shazam, and we don't need stories that are dark like Titans? Because Titans wasn't bad. I loved the first season of Titans. And I think, why can't we have the best of both of these? Why can't we have the lighthearted and the dark and gritty if they're done right?
I would say, why don't we just make the characters how the characters are supposed to be? If they need to be dark and gritty, they need to be dark and gritty. If it's working for Titans to be dark and gritty, be dark and gritty. Whereas Shazam was lighthearted because Shazam should be lighthearted.
Because he's a kid.
Aquaman was fairly lighthearted, but there were times where it was I don't want to call it gritty, but it was.
Is Aquaman also one? Was that also a decision? Hey, we got to make him likable.
Yeah,
because he's Aquaman.
He's Aquaman, so you got to play around with
Like,
that
how
part
many
too. But
people
Wonder Woman
always
even
made
like
fun of
had the back
Aquaman.
and forth, the ebb and flow of semi lighthearted. It wasn't lighthearted in the sense of Shazam, where it was like kid, but it was.
But
like,
it wasn't BVS.
It wasn't BVS, but or even it wasn't Man of Steel, where you made it dark and gritty. Even though this is Superman, why is it Batman-esque? Where's Batman at?
I can see where they're coming from, and
Yeah.
I took a second because I had to think there. I get it. Titans is probably the darkest thing that I've seen DC-wise since like BVS. It had a dark tone. The stories were darker. I could get where people like the Batman that has a more darker vigilante side to him.
Yeah.
And I realize I'm saying the word dark and darker way too much.
Darker, dark.
But maybe that's why they casted a Iain Glen, who is 57. Because, hey, this Batman is older. Maybe it's starting to realize, hey, you know what? Like, I gotta be with these new wave of criminals. I have to be a little bit more brash. And we're not talking about killing, but
You be a bit harder on them.
yeah, basically, like I need to beat the hell out of them compared to what I used to be. I don't really get the whole, well, Shazam did it this way. Shazam was awesome. Everything should be like Shazam. I like the differences. I like how Doom Patrol is different than Titans. I like how Titans is different than Shazam. My bottom line is basically, if it's good, why complain?
Here's the thing, like it goes along with our discussion
Because
before.
like Stargirl is going to be way different than Doom Patrol and Titans.
I would be surprised if it's not from the name of it. It can't be, right?
The one that you're excited about, Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be a horror TV series.
It should be a horror TV series. But it's like the conversation we had before. It goes hand in hand with it, basically, is if it's... I forgot. If it like the character needs to be like rated R, make them rated R.
Yeah.
If the character needs to be, it can be PG-13. I get it. You want to get the bigger clientele, make it PG-13. But you can't just like, oh, it needs to be like this way all the time because this is like it is. No, there's certain characters that works better for to have it dark and gritty, to have it lighthearted, to have it rated R, to have it PG. It all depends on the character. You want to be true to the character. That's why Logan was so much better than the other Wolverine movies. That's why Deadpool works the way it does, because he can be himself. That's why Titans is dark and gritty, so it can be its way, and that's why Shazam is lighthearted.
Probably the only person in season 1 of Titans that I felt was maybe not the character that I expected was Starfire.
Okay.
But I understand where they're coming from. Because the Starfire we've always had is kind of like the innocent,
giddy,
naive, lighthearted, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
she'd be sort of Shazam.
Basically. But I would say that she's more naive and wants to be trusting of everyone.
Yeah.
But also has that side of like, don't mess with me. Where this one kind of seemed very hard and brash from the start. And I don't know what her development is going to be like in season 2. I'm interested to see that. But that's probably the only character from Titans to where I was like, well, this is not the character I signed up for. But it wasn't like something where it was like, oh my God, this character is horrible and is rooting the series. Anything you think we missed with Titans?
Not that I can think of.
Probably the only thing we didn't mention was Superboy, but yet again, I don't know what their plans are going to be for Superboy. I don't even know if he's going to be a huge part or if he's going to be like Jason Todd, where, hey, we'll get one episode of Superboy and then leave that for season 3.
I think an underlying Project Cadmus story arc would be cool.
Yeah.
Especially you bring Superboy in.
Like, and maybe that is... So, like, how, you know how we had the Jason Todd episode? maybe we have one episode of Superboy where it's like the Project Cadmus, where it's, hey, this is what happened with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, we're leaving that for season 3 because we got way too much. We got way too many other things we need to focus on. But we're giving you an episode of Superboy so we can kind of create that progression of where the Titans go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in the comment section. What are you expecting from Iain Glen as Batman? What do you expect from Jason Todd and Jason Todd and Batman in season 2? And what do you expect from Titan season 2 in general? Let us know what you think down below.